Welcome to episode 16 of Tell Emma Your Dilemma, coming to you from a summer day here in Melbourne. Very bizarre still, I'm getting used to summer in January, but you know what? I'm not complaining. Okay, so this episode is all about flow, living in the flow, a flow state. I was sharing a story with my community about a moment I had about operating from flow. Trust me, I have operated from force a lot in my life. And so I've learned what I do when I operate from force, when I operate from flow. And then someone in my community wrote to me and said, flow is actually my word of the year, and I'm really practicing operating from flow. Can you give some more suggestions about living from flow? So we can call it many things. We call it flow, we could call it trance, we could call it the zone. Actually, I'll briefly talk about force. For me, whenever I'm in a season of force, it's often when I'm literally contracting in my body, right? When we're in force, we're operating from a place of fear and doubt and overthinking and overanalyzing and lack and all those things, and it doesn't feel good, right? I often say it's the difference between playing not to lose and playing to win. So playing not to lose, it's like I'm forcing my game out of me. Playing not to lose is fear, ultimately. Whereas playing to win is expansion. It's feeling open. It's feeling curious. It's feeling free, right? And I'm giving an example of, sport performance, but, all of us are trying to get to that state in life. We're all actually trying to operate from a flow state. And just some overall tips for me when I'm in flow is I really I just focus on being present, being in the present moment, like responding to my body, catching my thoughts, getting into the emotional and energetic state I want to be in. And I do that as simply as, how do I want to feel? How do I want to feel? And knowing that I can be so specific and call those feelings inside. But the other thing for me, what I've realized over the years is when I'm in flow, I'm in self-trust, I'm in safety in my body and my nervous system, but I'm also operating from passion, from joy, from curiosity. I had a cool moment recently, actually, where a couple years ago, I met these people and I had no expectations. I was genuinely reaching out from a place of shared interest, wisdom, passion, knowledge, and these relationships developed over years, and now they're coming together in a collaboration. But it was never from forcing, it was never from expecting, it was always from just moving from my true joy, passion, and that was just how I was kind of in flow. But I want to share some more tips about being in flow. So I wrote a few things down. So I mentioned it a moment ago, and so much of flow is actually about creating safety in ourselves. So in your daily life right now, if you feel like you're in a season of force, how can you just pause? I often call it the power of the pause. How can you just pause and ask yourself, how can I feel safe in this moment? What does my body need to feel safe in this moment? What does safety even feel like? Right? Like, sometimes I say these words, but everyone, it's specific to everybody. For me, safety is taking some breaths and feeling grounded and taking that pause and even using imagery, using sensation to call that safety in, or knowing that what do I have to do to feel safe in this moment? And just, asking yourself that, like, we know ourselves best. And even if it's a few percent, right? Like how would my body feel 5% safer right now? Sometimes it's literally just like shaking out the yayas, it's a breath, it's a stretch. I wrote things down in case I forget anything. It's also letting go of how something's supposed to look, right? When we're in force, we're like, it needs to be this way. It has to look like this. Trust me, I've been there. When I'm in flow, I literally don't know or care about the how something's going to happen. I just know in this moment, I'm trusting myself. In this moment, I feel safe. So the how doesn't matter. It's all going to work out, right? So with that, it's so much about being in flow is anchoring into the feeling you want to have. So when we're in flow or we're in the zone, in a trance, our subconscious mind takes over, and the subconscious mind is the mind of feeling. So this is why I talk about training the subconscious mind, training the feelings and emotional state you want to have, because that's what's going to come out. That's what's going to take over, because your subconscious is 95% of who you are. Woo! That was that was like riding a wave. So much of being in flow, again, it's that pause and just reconnecting to the feeling, letting go of the outcome, letting go of the how it's all going to be, and just reconnecting. The only thing you ever have control over is you, is your state, is your state. So again, instead of, I'm a big fan of visualization, of course, but I think we use it in different ways in different moments. So visualizing, instead of visualizing what you want to happen, because that can also just be control and force and, tune into how you want to feel. How you want to feel while it's happening. When you're in, when you think about how does it feel to be in the flow, what does it feel like to you? Again, is it a sensation in a specific area of your body? I know me, it's a certain emotional state. You can use images and color, right? Like it's play. Our imagination is our superpower. And I feel like so many people don't realize this. Your imagination is everything. It's everything. And the subconscious mind does not understand the difference between a real or imagined event. Yeah? But play in your imagination. Kids are brilliant at this. And as adults, we forget. But play every day. Play every day in your imagination. How you want to feel rather than what the outcome will be. And again, letting your body, aka subconscious, feel that sensation first in the body, because then the conscious mind will catch up. So another way, just what you can do in your daily life to kind of just call more flow in, is even for 2 minutes a day. Just close your eyes, slow your breathing. Again, tune into your body, aka subconscious, and just let the thoughts kind of soften and just feel yourself being supported by life. So many athletes talk about when they're in the zone, it's like they just felt this connection to the ball, the court, the field, the moment, right? Time doesn't exist. They're in that present moment, and ultimately they're feeling good and they're feeling supported. So how can you just take a moment and just call in that sensation in your daily life? Again, even 1 or 2 minutes. I always say too, if you can scroll on your phone for 10, 20, 30 minutes, I think you can have time to tune into the state you want to be in. Calling myself out too. Okay. Yes, so, another thing about flow loves curiosity. I say to my clients, be curious, not furious about your performance, about your life. Be curious. So flow likes curiosity, likes play, likes presence, permission to just literally flow. Whereas, force, it's contracting, like I said, it's urgency, it's fear, it's proving. I have to prove to you, or I need your approval. It's that pressure. And trust me, like I said, I've been in that state many a time in my life. So anytime things feel icky or you're pushing or forcing, pause. Again, pause. You're going to hear me say that all the time. And what if you could just ask yourself, what happens if this gets to be easier? What happens if I get to slow down and soften and trust? And what does that look like to me? What does that feel like to me? Again, that question alone can shift your state. So those are a few tips about getting in the flow. And again, I'm going to say it again, it's that power of the pause. When we literally just pause, and choose to intentionally respond rather than subconsciously, unconsciously react from old, patterns and survival mechanisms. And that's why actually getting into the flow, I feel like going into a deep dive therapy session where you can actually clear out those survival patterns that are in your subconscious operating system. When we can actually clear that out, that, then that won't be operating your life, right? When we can clear out the old, rewire in the emotional state you want to be in, that's what's going to come out when you're in flow, whatever is in your operating system. I hope those tips were helpful about being in flow rather than being in force. And just remember, it's practice, it's rehearsal, it's training. We have to train our mind just like we train the body. We have to train our emotional state just like we go study, right, and learn things. The more we do, the easier it's going to be. And repetition is everything. It's just everything. So let me know if you want, I could talk about flow so much, so this was just a little teaser, but I'm happy to share more about flow. If you have any questions about flow or force, you know where to find me. Until next time, mwah.